YouTube Netter Empire, what is going down? Welcome back to another video. 49ers look ahead and onward to Monday Night Football versus the Minnesota Vikings. Look, Minnesota, that's another good football team that the 49ers can't underestimate. I know with Kirk Cousins, he has a 2-10 record on Monday Night Football. Minnesota this year is 0-1 on Monday Night Football. They played the Philadelphia Eagles, I believe, week 3 maybe or week 2 on Monday Night Football. And they lost that game. I know as far as the Minnesota Vikings, Justin Jefferson will not play on Sunday or on Monday night. Justin Jefferson obviously has been dealing with an injury. The Vikings put him on IR just a couple weeks ago, so he will not be available for the Minnesota Vikings Monday night. But at the same time, the Minnesota Vikings have a very good receiving core outside from Justin Jefferson. They have KJ Osborne, who's been very productive this season. The Vikings have a very good offense, and I know Kirk Cousins gets a lot of hate here and there, but Kirk Cousins, I think, is a great quarterback still. He passes for a shit ton of yards. Yeah, he also turns the ball over, and I think that's another key thing that the 49ers will have to do to win that game. But again, I think when it's all said and done, the 49ers cannot let that Cleveland loss affect them going into this game. They can't underestimate the Minnesota Vikings. I know that this team has probably already moved forward and onward to Monday night. Obviously that they'll watch tape on the Cleveland Browns game. They probably already have watched the tape on that game. They'll fix the mistakes. In the Browns game, the 49ers dealt with a lot of penalties in that game on the offensive line mainly. Now, the officiating crew for Sunday's game last week wasn't the best either. There was a lot of questionable calls throughout the entire game, not only on the 49ers, but on the Cleveland Browns as well. When it comes to the officiating crew, though, we can talk about that Tashawn Gibson hit. That was not a penalty whatsoever. Tashawn Gibson probably won't even be fined for that hit. It was a clean hit. It was a terrible call. That was a crucial call in that game. But at the end of the day, no matter how many penalties there were, no matter what, there's no excuse to losing to the Cleveland Browns. We had a chance to win the game. Jake Moody missed the field goal. It's not all on him because the 49ers shouldn't have been in that situation where they would have had to rely on a rookie kicker to win them that football game. The 49ers will learn from that game and they'll get better. I think the biggest thing going into that game is seeing how McCaffrey's health is, Trent Williams and Debo. But again, I think the 49ers should go into that game and bounce back and obviously correct mistakes that happened in the Cleveland game. So as far as the Vikings, I think the most notable injury, like I said, was the Justin Jefferson. Now, the Vikings were able to get a win last week versus the Chicago Bears. I know Justin Fields got hurt in that game. I believe he dislocated his thumb or something of that nature. So they did get a win last week against the Chicago Bears. Now, I think, if McCaffrey and Debo and Trent Williams play, the 49ers need to go in that game and make a statement. And it's looking like right now, I know we've talked about those injuries to those players, but as it's looking right now, it looks like all three of those guys are trending towards playing on Monday night. I know with McCaffrey, his still is kind of up in the air, of course, but look, with or without Christian McCaffrey, the 49ers need to win that game. We're not really going to know anything on these injuries until closer to the game time anyway. The 49ers are in an excellent position to bounce back against the Minnesota Vikings. Last week the Vikings struggled against the Bears team. They struggled a lot. Their offense was not really playing well that entire game. So, look, I think, with with this game, had injuries not be a factor going into this Monday night game, this would be a great football game. Now, I know with the Vikings, they really weren't playing that well, even with Justin Jefferson. I know I believe he's got a hamstring injury. I believe that's what's keeping him out. Um, but again, here's the main thing with San Francisco going into this game. Whether McCaffrey and all these guys that are hurt are out or not, the 49ers have probably the most loaded depth behind all of their injured players. Now, I know as far as Trent Williams comes, the offensive line has played very well this year, don't get me wrong, but I think knowing that, Trent Williams could be out and whatnot, it'll be interesting to see what the 49ers do if he's out. I think if there's one player on the 49ers that they absolutely need to have for this game, it's probably Trent Williams. He's so important for Brock Purdy and Purdy's success behind center. But again, there's nothing to be concerned about with Trent Williams. He came back and he finished the game against the Cleveland Browns. So I would be that way. It wouldn't make any sense if he didn't play. So Trent Williams will play. But obviously, as we inch closer to game time, we will have to see what happens with Debo and Christian McCaffrey. I think one person that the 49ers need to be on the lookout for is obviously TJ Hawkinson. He has stepped up in Justin Jefferson's absence. But again, Brock Purdy has a stout defense to rely on. He has more tools at his disposal. The 49ers, this is a perfect game to bounce back for, and we'll see what happens. So I will be coming out with a official preview video to this game later on in the week as we inch closer to the game. But the 49ers will put this loss behind them. I expect them to bounce back against the Minnesota Vikings and hopefully get the win. Like I said, I'll have an official preview video and prediction video coming out later this week, so be prepared for that. But yeah, it is a perfect situation for San Francisco to bounce back after Sunday's loss.